It is impossible not to admire the ingenuity of the system by which each section of the community was to be made to believe that it would reap until benefits from Illuminism. Princes whose kingdoms were to be reft from them, maybe that's a word, English word for stolen from them, or plundered and stolen from them. Priests and ministers whose religion was to be destroyed. Merchants whose commerce was to be ruined. Women who were to be reduced to the rank of squaws. Peasants who were to be made to return to a state of savagery, were all by means of dividing up the secrets of the order into watertight compartments, to be persuaded that in Illuminism alone lay their prosperity or salvation. Secrecy being thus the great principle of his system. Weishaupt had not been slow to perceive the advantages offered by an alliance with Freemasonry. During the period when he was thinking out his plan, the real aims of Masonry were unknown to him. He only knew, says the Abbe Babeuf, that the Freemasons held secret meetings. He saw them united by a mysterious link and recognizing each other as brothers by certain signs and certain words to whatever nation or religion they belonged. He therefore conceived a new combination of which the result was to be a society adopting for its methods, as far as it suited him, the regime of the Jesuits and the mysterious silence, the obscure existence of the Masons. It was in 1777, nearly 2 years after he had founded the Order of the Illuminati, that Weishaupt became a Freemason, and towards the end of 1778 the idea was first launched of amalgamating the two societies. Cato, that is to say Herr von Zwack, who became a Mason on November 27, 1778, talked the matter over with a brother Mason, the Abbe Marotti, to whom he confided the whole secret of Illuminism, and 2 years later a further understanding between Illuminism and Freemasonry was brought about by a certain Freemason, Freiherr von Nigg, who in July 1780 arrived at Frankfurt, where he met the Illuminatus Diomedes, the Marquis de Constanza, sent by the Bavarian Illuminati to establish colonies in Protestant countries. The two men compared notes on the aims of their respective societies, and Knigge then expressed the wish to be received into the Order of the Illuminati. This met with the approval of Weishaupt, and Knigge, adopting the name of Philo, was thereupon initiated into the secrets of the first class of Illuminism, the Minervals. The zeal he displayed in obtaining proselytes delighted Spartacus, or Weishaupt. Philo, he wrote, is master from whom to take lessons. Give me 6 men of his stamp, and with them I will change the face of the universe. Basically, give him 6 men that had the same qualities. His abilities to do what he did. As a result of the negotiations between Weishaupt and Knigge, a kind of union was arranged between the two societies, and Spartacus agreed to Illuminism, receiving the first 3 degrees of Masonry. On 20th of December 1781, it was finally decided that the combined order should be composed of 3 classes: A, the Minervals, the Freemasons, B, the Freemasons, and C, the Mystery class, which, as the highest of all, was divided into the lesser and greater mysteries, the former including the grades of priests and regents, the latter the majors and the mean kings. But it was not until the Congrès de Wilhelmsbad that the alliance between Illuminism and Freemasonry was finally sealed. This assembly, of which the importance to the subsequent history of the world has never been appreciated by historians, met for the first time on the 16th of July 1782, and included representatives of all the secret societies. Martinistas, as well as Freemasons and Illuminati, which now numbered no less than 3 million members all over the world. Among these different orders, the Illuminati of Bavaria alone had formulated a definite plan of campaign, and it was they who henceforth took the lead. What passed at this terrible Congress will never be known to the outside world, for even those men who had been drawn unwittingly into the movement and now heard for the first time the real designs of the leaders were under oath to reveal nothing. One such honest Freemason, the Comte de Verrieux, a member of a Martinist lodge at Lyons, returning from the Congress de Wilhelmsbad, could not conceal his alarm, and when questioned on the tragic secrets he had brought back with him, replied, "I will not confide them to you. I can only tell you that all this is very much more serious than you think. The conspiracy which is being woven is so well thought out that it will be, so to speak, impossible for the monarchy and the church to escape from it. From the time onwards," says his biographer, M. Costa de Beauregard, "the Comte de Verrieux could only speak of Freemasonry with horror." The years of 1781 and 1782 were remarkable for the growth of another movement which found expression at the Congrès de Wilhelmsbad, namely the emancipation of the Jews. During these years a wave of pro-Semitism was produced throughout Europe by Dom's great book upon the civil amelioration of the condition of the Jews, written under the influence of Moses Mendelssohn and finished in August 1781. And there's some references to those two books you can look at to find that below these paragraphs. It was thus, wrote the Abbe Lehmann, that 8 years before the revolution the program in favour of Judaism was sent out by Prussia. This book had a considerable influence on the revolutionary movement. It is the trumpet call of the Jewish cause, the signal for the step forward. Graetz, the Jewish historian, himself recognises the immense importance of Dom's work, painting the Christians as cruel barbarians and the Jews as illustrious martyrs. Graetz v. 373. All thinking people, he adds, now began to interest themselves in the Jewish question. Mirabeau, a few years later on a mission to Berlin, formed a friendship with Dom and became an habitué of the salon of a young and beautiful Jewess, Henrietta de Lemos, wife of Dr. Hertz, and it was there that the disciples of Mendelssohn, who had just died, pressed him to raise his voice in favour of the oppressed Jews, with the result that Mirabeau published a book in London on the same lines as Dom's, Sur Moses Mendelssohn, sur la réforme politique des Juifs, etc., etc., A. Londres, 1787. Meanwhile, in 1781, Anna Chassis Klutz, the future author of La République Universelle, wrote his pro-Semitic pamphlet called Lettres sur les Juifs. The result of this agitation was seen later in the edicts passed through the influence of Mirabeau and Abbe Grégoire by the National Assembly in 1791, decreeing the emancipation of the Jews. A more immediate effect, however, was the resolution taken at the Masonic Congress of Wilhelmsbad, which was attended by Lessing and a company of Jews. Footnote indicated there. A. Cowan, The X-Rays in Freemasonry, page 122, Archives Israelites, 1867, page 486 or 466. That henceforth Jews should no longer be excluded from the lodges. 2. A. de la Rivière, it's got something in French. Hitherto Jews had only been admitted into the lodges of the order of Melchizedek, of which the 3 principal grades were given by the Marquis de Lachute as 1. de frères initiés, I can't read, that's French, and so forth. rose Croix or the grade of Melchizedek. The Freer initiates, etc., were in order of which the hieroglyphics were taken from Hebrew. The supreme direction was called the Small and Constant Sanhedrim of Europe. 1789, page 212. Lombard de Langres says the secret society became affiliated to Illuminism, that its centre was at Hamburg, and that only the Grand Master knew the whole secret. Des Sociétés Secrètes in Allemagne, page 8182. At the same time, it was decided to remove the headquarters of Illuminized Freemasonry to Frankfurt, which incidentally was the stronghold of Jewish finance, controlled at this date by such leading members of the race as Rothschild, Meyer Amschel, later to become Rothschild also, Oppenheimer, Wertheimer, Schuster, Speyer, Stern, and others. And there's a reference to Werner Sombart, The Jews and Modern Capitalism, page 187. At this head lodge of Frankfurt, the gigantic plan of world revolution was carried forward, and it was there that, at a large Masonic Congress in 1786, 2 French Freemasons afterwards declared the deaths of Louis the 16th and Gustavus III of Sweden were definitely decreed. Reference there, Charles de Heurlecout, La Révolution, page 104. From the moment of the Great Coalition effected at Wilhelmsbad, Illuminism, aided largely by the activities of Koenig, was able to extend its ramifications all over Germany. The Lodge of Eichstätt under Mohammed, the Baron Schreckenstein, illuminated Bayreuth and other imperial towns. Berlin under Nikolai and Leuchtenring illuminated provinces of Brandenburg and Pomerania. Frankfurt illuminated Hanover, and so on. All these branches were controlled by the 12 leading adepts headed by Weishaupt, who at the Lodge of Munich held in his hands the threads of the whole conspiracy. But dissensions had now begun amongst the 2 principal leaders, Weishaupt and Koenig. Both were indeed born intriguers, but whilst Weishaupt preferred to work in the dark and wrap himself in mystery, Koenig loved to make a noise in the world and to meddle with everything. It was inevitable that 2 such men could not continue to work together harmoniously, and before long Koenig's persistent attempts to pry into Weishaupt's secrets and to usurp a share of his glory roused the animosity of his chief, who ended by depriving Koenig of his post as director of the provinces and placing him in a subordinate position. Whereas Philo, on the 20th of January 1783, wrote indignantly to Cato, "It is the Jesuitry of Weishaupt that causes all our divisions. It is the despotism that he exercises over men, perhaps less rich than himself, in imagination, in ruses, in cunning. I declare that nothing can put me on the same footing with Spartacus or Weishaupt as that on which I was at first." As a matter of fact, Koenig was in no way behind Weishaupt in what he described as Jesuitry, but revolted by the tyranny of his leader, he finally left the Illuminati in anger and disgust. "I abhor treachery and profligacy," he wrote again to Cato, "and I leave him to blow himself and his order into the air." Public opinion had now, however, become thoroughly roused on the subject of the society, and the Elector of Bavaria, informed of the danger to the state constituted by its adepts, who were said to have declared that the Illuminati must in time rule the world, published an edict forbidding all secret societies. In April of the following year, 1785, 4 other Illuminati, who like Koenig had left the society, disgusted by the tyranny of Weishaupt, were summoned before a court of inquiry to give an account of the doctrines and methods of the sect. The evidence of these men, Utschneider, Costendey, Grünberger, and Renner, all professors of the Marianne Academy, left no further room for doubt as to the diabolical nature of Illuminism. All religion, they declared, all love, of country and loyalty to sovereigns were to be annihilated or destroyed. A favourite maxim of the order being, and it's got it in French there, looks like something about traitors. Moreover, every effort was to be made to create discord not only between princes and their subjects, but between ministers and their secretaries, and even between parents and children, while suicide was to be encouraged by inculcating in men's minds the idea that the act of killing oneself afforded a certain voluptuous pleasure. Espionage was to be extended even to the post by placing adepts in the post offices who possessed the art of opening letters and closing them again without fear of detection. Robinson, who studied all the evidence of the four professors, thus sums up the plan of Weishaupt as revealed by them. The order of the Illuminati adjured Christianity and advocated sensual pleasures. In the lodges, death was declared an eternal sleep. Patriotism and loyalty were called narrow-minded prejudices and incompatible with universal benevolence. And footnote indicated Robison's Proofs of a Conspiracy, paragraph 106-107. Further, they accounted all princes, usurpers and tyrants and all privileged orders as their abettors. They meant to abolish the laws which protected property accumulated by long continued and successful industry, and to prevent for the future any such accumulation. They intended to establish universal liberty and equality, the imprescriptible rights of man, and as necessary preparations for all this, they intended to root out all religion and ordinary morality. And even to break the bonds of domestic life by destroying the veneration for marriage vows, and by taking the education of children out of the hands of the parents. Page 375. Reduced to a simple formula, the aims of the Illuminati may be summarized in the following 6 points. 1. Abolition of monarchy and all ordered government. 2. Abolition of private property. 3. Abolition of inheritance. 4. Abolition of patriotism. 5. Abolition of the family, i.e. of marriage and all morality, and the institution of the communal education of children. 6. Abolition of all religion. Now it would surely be admitted that the above forms a program hitherto unprecedented in the history of civilization. Communistic theories had been held by isolated thinkers or groups of thinkers since the days of Plato, but no one, as far as we know, had ever yet seriously proposed to destroy everything for which civilization stands. Moreover, when, as we shall see, the plan of Illuminism, as codified by the above 6 points, has continued up to the present day to form the exact program of the world revolution, how can we doubt that the whole movement originated with the Illuminati or with secret influences or work behind them? Here, a curious point arises. Was Weishaupt the inventor of his system? We know that he was indoctrinated in occultism by Kilmer, but beyond this we can discover nothing. If indeed Weishaupt himself thought out this whole plan of world revolution, that gigantic conception as it is described by Louis Blanc, how is it that so vast a genius should have remained absolutely unknown to posterity? How is it that succeeding groups of world revolutionaries, whilst all following in his footsteps, even those who we know positively to have belonged to his order, never once have referred to the source of their inspiration? Is not the answer to the latter question that throughout the movement of the adepts of the order have always adhered to the stringent rule laid down by Weishaupt that they should never allow themselves to be known as Illuminati? The persistent efforts to conceal the very existence of the order, or, if this proves impossible, to represent it as an unimportant philanthropic movement, has continued up to the very year in which this author writes. With regard to the philanthropic nature of Illuminism, it is only necessary to consult the original writings of Weishaupt to realize the holiness of this assurance. Amongst the whole correspondence which passed between Weishaupt and his adepts laid bare by the government of Bavaria, we find no word of sympathy with the poor or suffering, no hint of social reform, nothing but the desire either for domination, for world power, or sheer love of destruction, and throughout all the insatiable spirit of intrigue. For this purpose every method was held to be justifiable, since the fundamental doctrine of the sect was that the end sanctifies the means, der Zweck heiligt die Mittel, which Weishaupt referred to in his code, declaring it to be part of the Jesuit system, an imputation which the Abbe Babeuf indignantly denies, and which inevitably led, as Robinson points out, to the conclusion that nothing would be scrupled at if it could be made appear that the order would derive an advantage from it, because the great object of the order was held as superior to every consideration. As might be expected, Weishaupt loudly protested against the account of society given by the four professors, declaring that they had not been initiated into its inner mysteries, but the discovery a little later of his correspondence with Zwack, from which quotations have already been given earlier in this chapter, threw a still more sinister light on the real aims of the order. It was on the 11th of October 1786 that the Bavarian authorities descended upon the house of Zwack and seized the documents which laid bare the methods of the conspirators. Here were found descriptions of a strong box for safeguarding papers which, if forced open, should blow up by means of an infernal machine, of a composition which should blind or kill if squirted in the face, of a method for counterfeiting seals, recipes for a particular deadly kind of aqua tofana, for poisonous perfumes that would fill a bedroom with pestilential vapours, and for a tea to procure abortion. A eulogy of atheism entitled Better Than Horus was also discovered, and a paper in the handwriting of Zwack describing the plan for enlisting women in the two classes mentioned above. It will be of great service and procure much information and money, and will suit charming the taste of many of our truest members who are lovers of the sex. It should consist of two classes, the virtuous and the freer-hearted. They must not know of each other, and must be under the direction of men, but without knowing it, through good books, and the latter class through the indulging of their passions and concealment. Footnote 1 there. Nachtrag. Original Schriften 1.6. The Illuminati, of course, still proclaim that their innocence, and though not attempting to deny the authenticity of these documents, declared that they had been misinterpreted, and that the real purpose of the order was to make of the human race one good and happy family. But the damning evidence their papers contained made the plan of the Illuminati only too clear, which was no other than to bring about the universal revolution that should deal the death blow to society. Princes and nations, Weishaupt had written, shall disappear off the face of the earth. Yes, the time will come when men will have no other laws than the book of nature. This revolution will be the work of the secret societies, and that is one of our great mysteries. The fearful danger presented by the Illuminati now become apparent, and the government of Bavaria, judging that the best manner of conveying a warning to the civilized world would be to allow the papers to speak for themselves, ordered them to be printed forthwith and circulated as widely as possible. A copy of this publication, entitled Original Writings of the Order of the Illuminati, was then forwarded to every government of Europe, but, strange to say, attracted little attention, the truth being doubtless, as Abbe Babeuf points out, that the extravagance of the scheme therein propounded rendered it unbelievable, and the rulers of Europe, refusing to take Illuminism seriously, put it aside as a chimera. The government of Bavaria, however, continued its proceedings against the sect. Several of its members were arrested. Zwack left the country on a mission to England. Weishaupt, with a price set on his head, took refuge with one of his royal adepts, the Duke of Saxe-Gotha. This apparent break-up of the society admirably served the purpose of the conspirators who now diligently circulated the news that Illuminism had ceased to exist, a deception carried on ever since by interested historians anxious to suppress the truth about its subsequent activities. The truth is that not until Illuminism had been apparently extinguished in Bavaria was it able to make its formidable influence felt abroad, and public anxiety being allayed, it could secretly extend its organisation over the whole civilised world.